My name is Robert Freeland, Jr. My parents were Robert Sr. and Nello Snooks Freeland. And I was born in Asheboro. I wasn't born in the hospital, I was born on Woodlawn Street, right next to her parents' house. I was born in my grandfather's house. So,
who was your grandfather?
My grandfather was William Henry Freeland. And I'm 74 years old. So,
and you lived in Asheboro all your life?
Except for the time, well, I left a couple of times. I left for the military. I graduated high school at Central High School, and I joined the military at 17 years old. Went in the military. I was a paratrooper in the 82nd Airborne. And I left for a little while in the 70s. I went to live with my aunt in Washington, D.C. a little while in the 70s after my father passed away. But I spent majority of my life here.
What class were you at Central High School? What year?
I graduated in 1963.
Okay. All right, Mr. Headen?
Now, my name is Bryant Headen, Sr. And I was born in rural Hall, North Carolina. Came to Asheboro, I guess, before I was a year old. And best I can remember, Dr. Fritz was here at that time. And I was very sick. But I remember him, seemed like to me I could see him over my bed, watching after me and telling my parents, my grandmother, what to do. Might not make it through the night. See, I don't know why I remember that so much. But that was down on Woodlawn Street, so I grew up over there on the east side.
Were y'all neighbors on Woodlawn Street?
Not far. He was over on
Well, I was born on Woodlawn. That's where my grandfather lived. At 2 years old, my grandfather died, but at that particular time, my father and two of the men in the community went a street over to Glovinia, and my father built, and the men built a house there for us. And at 2 years old, my grandfather passed away. And the thing that strikes me is most of that when we were living in Glovinia, they didn't have the body was in the house on Woodlawn. I remember my father taking me there at 2 years old and viewing my grandfather in the casket.
In the house?
In the house.
Mm-hmm. Now, Mr. Headen, there's a lot of Heddens around Ramsor in eastern Randolph County. Are you related to them?
You know, I don't know, because my parents separated when she brought me to Asheboro. I think that was the separation. And I didn't see my father until I was up, I guess, close to a teenager. I think I recall him coming to visit, and we were up in the ballpark when someone called to get Daddy's there. So I went down to meet him. Never did have much of a relationship with my father. And then I didn't see him again until after I got married. And we looked him up, my wife and I looked him up and found him there in Weston. The next thing I know, he was there knocking on our door wanting to stay with us. Of course, couldn't stay with us because we were staying with somebody else. At that time, staying with her parents.
So did you go to Central High School too?
Yes, I did. I went to Central High, Randolph County Training School.
Mr. Barrett, was Mr. Barrett the principal or who?
Mr. Barrett was the principal, yes, at my earlier days. Memory gets foggy after so long. But I was a devilish little fellow, didn't go to school much. Jump out the window and go smoke cigarettes. And I dropped out of school, went to service. I was in the 101st Airborne.
In Korea?
And I went to Germany. Fortunately, I didn't make it to Korea. My name seemed like one or two at the above the cutoff for Korea. fellow below me went to Austria, and then I went to Munich. I was a communications specialist there. Did pretty good, I guess. I was into something all the time over there too. I really wasn't fighting in Korea, but I was fighting something over there. I don't know what I was fighting, to tell you the truth. But anyway, I survived that couple of years. And come on back, then I went back to school and I learned some sense. But I was a little wild.
Where did you go back to school?
Went to Central School. I think I was able to skip a grade and went 2 years there. Graduated top of the class, was president of this and president of that. Because I had on-hand experience, I ought to have been the president, I think. They were teaching where I'd been. I'd been around the world.
Now, both of y'all were in the military. Was there discrimination against black soldiers when you were in the military?
Yeah. It's no different then than it is today. It's still discrimination. I mean, you know, but one thing I learned about it, you see, when I was in the military, when I went to the military at 17 years old, there was the oldest people there were the ones from the Korean War and all that, you know, World War II soldiers and stuff. They were older then. They were in command and they was instructing and stuff, but in 1963, they had young guys from all over the United States. And most of the guys that I run into were these from 17 years old, 25 and 30. That was the majority of the guys. And a lot of time back then, people may not realize it, but they were taking guys off the street. They had you either go to jail for crimes in the big cities or you join the military. That's a lot of those guys, and one of the things about it, I went in to be a career soldier. I had already figured it out, and I went in at 17, I could have retired after 20 years at 37 years old, but it didn't work out. Once you get in there, one of the things I found out was that there were people over you who didn't know how to exercise authority, or didn't care about exercising authority, and they made life hard for you. But the thing about it then, being in the military, you had to toe the line, because if you came out of the military with anything other than honorable discharge, you didn't have any future. It was already hard enough on you, but if you came out with a dishonorable discharge or undesirable, nobody would talk to you. So, you know, I decided to do my time. I did 3 years active military duty, and I did 3 years reserve. And when my time was up, I got out, because I didn't want somebody else dictating how my life was going to go. So, I mean, you know, that's just the way it is. And yeah, it's discrimination that was there then and it's there now. The way I look at it, it always will be.
Well, you were in about 10 years before he was.
Yeah, 54 and 56. And I was in a demonstration. There was that discrimination. Deal with it, because that's all we knew.
Yeah.
So actually, I thought I was doing good. I run into a couple of my company commander. He couldn't stand me because I was young and didn't care whether I lived or died, and I did some things to him. And it enhanced the feeling, I would say. But I survived. Fortunately, I did not have to go into the war zone. But being such a young-looking fellow, they gave me a good job at working with the battalion commander and driving him around and keeping communications going. Did pretty good till I messed up, and they kicked me out. Put me on the line.
But,
all right, that taught me too.
Yeah. Well, you said you went to the ball field, or you were at the ball field when they called you with your dad. Was that the ball field that's over on Cedar Falls Road?
That's the ball field, Washington. Was that Washington Park?
Washington Park.
Yes.
Now, the east side of town before 1960, before you became a policeman, that was a whole community over there, because it had a movie theater and it had restaurants and stuff like that, all sorts of things that are gone from there now. But talk about how it was when you were little, when there were black-owned businesses and there was stuff happening over there at night and whatever.
Oh, boy. There was the pool hall and then the dance hall right across the street, right next to the cemetery. The cemetery was not there then, it was all woods.
The old cemetery was there, the Oddfellows Cemetery.
Yeah,
the
they
one
were
back
there,
in
back
the-
on the other side. But there was all woods up in there where we would go hide out in the woods and throw rocks and whatever we threw at the cafe. And, yeah, we partied and danced. My stepfather run the pool hall over here.
Who was that?
Willie Porter. And then Milton Bass ran this other dance hall across the street, right across from each other on Cedar Fall Road. Those were the places we frequented, and of course they had Little Korea.
What's that?
Where was Little Korea located? On Cedar Fall Road also, down there with the church there now. On the other side of Mabel Lewis's house. I think that's where Little Korea was. And then they had, the Vitamin boys run the little Cinderella, and Mabel Lewis and them had the Oak Street Grill over there on Boat Street.
And the Black Public Library was somewhere in there too, right?
The only black library was at the central school site. That's where it was a separate building from the school and the elementary. Miss Roper was the librarian when I went to school. That building was separate from the school, but it was there on the property. So,
Yes.
you remember the little white building?
Yeah, vaguely remember, yes. Down
Right
below
there next to
chicken-
the field.
Yeah, next to the chicken houses down there, chicken coops. So you know, we call them the chicken coops, so there was classrooms, fifth and sixth grade, I believe it was, off to the side.
Well, they had some down there then until they built a new elementary school.
Yeah.
Until they built a new elementary school.
Yes, it was,
As a matter of fact, my father worked on the construction crew that built the elementary school.
yeah, it was, yeah, we've had a lot of nightlife, of course, people come in from all outside, Pine Ridge and Robbins and various places. And partying, of course, would be fights and young men exploiting themselves. But life was tough. But as we knew it, like people that lived my life, it was good because I had money. I made money. And we just had a lot of fun and going back to work, like O'Donnell and all those other sawmillers that would come through and pick us up. We'd work hard all day and party all night. That was the way of life. I tell you, I got in that army though, it did show me there's another side of life. And that was good. I needed to know something. I needed some education. And when I come back, I started delving into education, and that was a turning point. Got my education and had 2 scholarships. I did not take either one of them because I chose to marry my lovely wife instead of going to school. And I said, we'll go to school later.
Where did y'all meet?
Where did we meet, honey?
Professor Barrett at Carver College, remember?
Yes.
And of course, I had finished nursing, and I was tutoring some students that claimed that they wanted to go into nursing. And he was,
Teaching education.
yeah, some students that.
Let me interrupt 1 second. We didn't get over to you, so tell us your name and where you're from. And
Okay, I'm Carrie Headen, and I'm originally from Robbins, North Carolina. And
what was your maiden name?
Ritter,
Ritter.
yes, my dad was Thomas Ritter. They moved to Asheboro when I was in school. And when I went to finish school, I came to Asheboro, and that's when I met Bryant.
Mr. Tom really used to
Tom
stay
Ritter.
from Frank Street.
No, that was Grady.
Yeah.
He lived on Dunlap Street.
Dunlap, okay.
That was my dad.
Mr. Grady on Frank, Mr. Tom on Dunlap. I remember that.
Mhm.
Is he ran a store or?
No, he didn't, no.
Well,
He-
that was, oh, okay, well, I'm sorry.
No, his conversation.
Oh, no, he didn't run a store. He worked he retired from Sears.
Sears.
Uh-huh.
No, we had stores in the community. That's one of the things that I remember. It was a lot of people that had stores in their houses. And you know, because the one grocery store that we had was Wright's store.
Yeah, that's true.
It's set at the corner of Cedar Falls and Martin Luther King now. That's, you know, but
In the triangle?
where Cedar Falls Road branches out from Martin Luther King.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as a matter of fact, where George Washington Carver parking lot is, that's where the store sat. You couldn't see the cabinet's house behind it because the store was in front of it. That's where it was right store. It had gas pumps and all that. But that's where people shopped. That's where we shopped as a family. I remember we would go there. And when you talk about buying groceries, we take the whole family car. It took everybody to carry all the bags. You know, you'd be lined up like the Partridge Family. You have brown bags in both hands. I mean, I've seen my mother and father going, you spend $20, you'd have enough food to last a whole month.
And it was a 50-pound bag of flour, or a 100-pound.
Yeah, well, see, most of the things that we did growing up, when I lived there, we raised hogs, we raised chickens, we had goats and all that right there on Globina Street. We raised all that. The only thing that we went to the store for most of the time was something like you said, flour and sugar and stuff like that. But we had gardens and everything, vegetables and everything there. We raised them. We would take some of the meat to the store to get it ground up to make sausage and stuff like that. But, I mean, we were self-sufficient. You go to the store to buy groceries, they take all the kids, because everybody come out with bags. Now you can spend $100 somewhere and have one bag in your hand. But then it took the whole family to carry bags. I mean, big paper bags of food. But in every community, just like the way our streets were, when I was growing up, you know, you had this set of kids that played on this side all the time. Then you had the side near Central School, Tucker Street, Brewer, and all that now. And then you had North End, and then you had West End. But the favorite place that everybody could meet and be neutral was Low Street.
Yeah.
Everybody could meet on Low Street. It didn't, you know.
Why was that?
Because that was just a place where everybody functioned. It was the middle of the, you know. You had people lived there. You had a store. What was that? It used to be June Carter.
Picket store.
Yeah, well, June Carter was the first one. I remember living down, you know where Tom's store was?
Yeah.
Had the upstairs, Mr. June Carter, he was there, and then my uncle, John Henry.
Yeah, yeah.
John Henry Marshall, he had one arm. He had the store there. He ran it then, you know. But you had all up and down there, you had people that sell stuff. You had stores where you could go in and buy candy. You remember Mr. Ed Ash?
Yeah, Mr. Headen.
Down there where Katie lives now? He had a candy store in there on Woodlawn. Mr. Ridley, he had stores in there. And we just, it was just, you could go anywhere. Just by, you didn't have to try to get uptown, but the beautiful thing about it then when I was growing up, it wasn't as hard for people to get uptown as it is now, because we had taxi and bus service. It ran on a schedule, just like it did in big city. You had taxi, you could call a taxi, or you could catch a bus. Bus ran just about every hour, McGill's. You had the taxi service and the bus service. They run every hour.
And went out to Cedar Falls, Franklin, Ramseur?
Well, I know it ran in Asheboro because one of the times I distinctly remember was my father put me on his shoulders and we were going to catch the bus. We had to go to same store, right store where I was just talking about. That was one of the bus stops. But you catch the bus, it go all around, had routes around the neighborhood where it pick up people. You could put a dime in that, put a dime in, remember that thing, get on the button, put a dime in that thing, I mean, yeah. Yeah, but, I mean, we had service, we had bus service, we had taxi service.
Now, white people will refer to that side of town as the Hill. Is that a derogatory term, or did y'all say that too?
Well, no, it was time they said it, but you have one of the things right now that bothers me the most. You have people that have lived over there all their life and go somewhere else and live, and then when they said, but it's the way they said it here, but you lived over here. You lived over here. You didn't have anything to say when you lived here, but just like you say, most of the things that happen on there, we always had people come from somewhere else that start something. But the reputation and the name is right there. It's because of that side of town. But the thing about it is, I've lived over there all my life. I don't have a problem with anybody, never had a problem with anybody. You know, people say, you scared? No, I'm not scared to do this. I'm a born-again Christian. I live here. This is what I do. I'm not bothered by anybody. But it's just all in the way you carry yourself. If you carry yourself in a certain way, then those certain things will happen to you. But no, they say it, and they say it, the Hill, East Side, I don't live over there no more. I never had a problem. I've been there all my life.
But to answer the question, yes, they call it the Hill. Actually, call it Baptist Hill.
Mm-hmm.
We still refer to it. Bobby and I talk. We still refer to it. We go up on the hill. We have to go on the hill for this. And actually, when they would communicate your orders on the radio, well, on the hill there's a disturbance on the low street. That's about where everything went in love would take off. And of course, just the way life was. And I wished I could have time to sit and tell people my visions of how life was, is, and should be. But we won't get into all of that.
Well, we can get into that. One question before I get you to talk about the police is you're talking about the neighborhoods. And I know there was a whole community neighborhood of black people that lived on Greensboro Street too, but that's a pretty good ways from Lord Street and Blovania and over there. Was that considered to be all one place, or was that different? Greensboro Street, were they different people?
That's different. That's North End, where the big money
We
is.
call it North End, yeah.
Oh, where the big money was?
Yeah. And Charlie Robles, what's the guy's name?
John Smith,
Yeah.
Charlie
John.
Robles, what was that? B.M. Phillips, all that.
Yeah, the Phillips.
Ben.
Then you had the Kenyans on top of Brewer.
Yeah.
Then you had the Hollands.
Yeah, the Holland.
Mr. Holland, the minister, what was his name?
Yeah.
Kenneth, wasn't it?
And Miss, what's your name, whose son runs the funeral home?
Hodge.
Hodges.
Yeah,
Charles
yeah.
Hodges. Miss
Yeah,
Hodges.
his mother was Adelaide.
And
Yeah,
then-
and the Paynes,
Then even
James Payne.
even further west, over behind Bossong, there was a black community, right? Was that different too?
That's
that was
West End.
West End.
West
West
End.
End.
We call that West End.
Quiet.
There was a church over there around Peachtree Street, and a cemetery too. I think there's one tombstone left over there. What church was that?
Was it a black church?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't call the church, I can't.
Allen's
call it.
Temple. Allen's Temple AME Church, that's what it was.
Yes. That was where.
My whole recollection of Peachtree until this modern day town was all white. I didn't know any black people.
Well, Railroad Street and Peachtree Street, and Allen's, yeah, there was a whole.
But I remember Railroad and all that because I had the students that lived over there, they were bused to Central School. They were bused to Central School. The students on West End, North End, they went to Central School. We even had students from Randolph St. Peter
St.
community, level crossing, bust all the way to Central School.
Really? Well, and then I know there was Ramseur community of black people, there's Trinity community, a Liberty community, St. Peter's, and Masters Mill. Was there other black communities around?
Farmer, we called it Farmer, because I drove the bus out there.
They came to Asheboro too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was 42.
Farmer, Eula.
I drove 96 miles a day.
On the bus?
Yeah.
What kind of bus did you drive?
The 54 Chevrolet, I recall, stick. Yeah, I remember that.
How old were you when you drove the school bus?
I was 19. I done come back from service then and went back to school. Yeah, I drove school bus 2 years. The 2 years I was there. Played football.
Played football for the school?
Yeah, worst football player I ever played on the team.
Who all did they play in football at Central?
Oh, we played Hoffman Training Schools, Concord, various places. I can't recall all of them, but I do remember Hoffman, Marshall Training School
Yeah.
in Concord, but Concord would have just took me off.
When I played football for Central, we played, Marston Training School, that's in Hoffman. We played Thomasville, we played Lexington. Let me see, Thomasville, Lexington, Concord. Let's see those places. I know it because Albemarle, and teams out of Mount Gilead and like that, because I remember traveling, But we played those schools. The Marston Training School, that was always something. You had to play football and then fight.
Yeah, I really was.
Yeah, I'm serious.
Hard-headed fool.
And they were all training schools?
They were delinquent students. They were students like that parents couldn't do anything with, and that's where they sent them. That was a school for juvenile delinquents.
So all the schools that you played were like that?
No, just Marston Training School. It was in Hoffman.
Down in Richmond County.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now that was a black training school, right?
Yeah.
Because you had Stonewall Jackson Training School on the way to
Hoffman.
Charlotte.
Yeah, Marston was
No,
black.
white one. Yeah. Now, did you play basketball too, or just?
Yeah, I played basketball, softball. When we played softball, we didn't have gloves. We played with our bare hand. That's the way we played. We played basketball. We played those teams. Yeah, we dog.
Now, Mr. Headen, how'd you go from bus driver to policeman?
That's a good subject there, because after I graduated from high school and decided to get married, I had a job as a janitor at the school. Then I worked a little while with General Electric as a janitor. Then someone called from Bethel Hosey, and one top student or some nice person or something where they recorded it, and Professor Gill recommended me. So I went in working with Bethel Hosey, and I became the partial post clerk there. And I not forget, I was so efficient that they asked me if I would head up the shoe department at Bethel Hosey, which never materialized, because the civic committee had asked that we find someone in the community that they could recommend to be in the police department. And they asked me. I was shocked they would ask me. And the first thing was, man, are you crazy? No, I can't be no police officer. But after talking to around, my mother, my stepdaddy, he didn't have much to say about it, because we didn't get along anyway. And he was a crook, and he knew the first thing I would do, I would arrest him. be a killer.
Oh, yeah.
Carl Bester. He said, if you don't take that job, I'm gonna do some things to you. He told me what he did. I said, now this guy's serious. And we were close, Carl and I were. But then I decided, well, I will. I talked to Lon Strickland and the Civic Committee and Professor Gill and Miss Liza Franks. All those senior people around the community had taken a liking to me after I come back out of service, particularly because I was like, I had learned some sense and I respected people. And I think they could see that.
Mm-hmm. Well, back up 1 second. All those people you just said were like the high up people in the community.
They were the senior citizens.
Tell us about them, because some of them I've heard of and some of them I've never heard of.
Well, I started with Miss Liza Franks, who was like the mother of the church. I could on Frank Street. Here and married Jim Franks, who they ran a little.
Mr. Jim had that barbecue cafe
Yes.
right there where the apartment and buildings are right now. He had a barbecue.
Miss Liza, she was good. Miss Cranford over there on Globe Street, I don't know if you remember her or not.
Miss Lucille Crampton
Yeah.
lived right across from the ballpark.
No, that was Smokey. That
Smokey
Cranford, I'm
White.
sorry. This is another Cranford that lived on right diagonal across the street from Miss Lucille Lane. Well, I guess that was before your time because I was very young when she used to have me waited out to the back also.
Okay, because I remember Mr. Jess and Rosie Cheek living there. Remember
They lived next year.
in the small house?
Yeah, the Cheeks lived here, Miss Cranford lived in the last house before you get to the Elks Lodge over there.
Okay, yeah, okay, I remember now.
Anyway,
And who else was, you said something about the civic committee?
well, I think that consisted of Mr. Lonzo Strickland, June Hill, Earl Jones, and I think Professor Barrett had something to do with that too. He was getting along for the years at that time.
What was that, the civic committee?
It was, I guess it's just a committee that had gotten together for the betterment of the community.
Of the black community?
Yeah, that's the black community, because that's, they would talk to the city council on our behalf and see things that they could do for the community. And that's, of course, where the recommendations come in, where they could find a good candidate that could be a police officer. So yes, I eventually decided, yes, I'll take the job, and I met the chief. I'd already met the Purdue's and the Lovetts.
Now, Clarence Lovett was the chief then,
Yes.
right?
And Willie was I think Willie was his assistant, wasn't he?
He was lieutenant.
Lieutenant Willie Purdue, that was a bad boy.
Yeah.
They was
I remember him too.
Yeah, they come over and run over your dog and tell you to beat him up. Stuff like that. Yeah, but anyway, those are the people that I met, and I began to deal with them because Clarence got out before. He went out the day I came in.
He retired, Clarence Lovett retired.
Yeah.
And I and JD come in together. But Tom McIntosh was he the city manager then?
Yeah.
Fine person.
So J.D. Bulla and you started together?
Yes. And Lieutenant Cockham moved up to his position, and Boyd Cagle moved to Cockham's position, who was my initial trainer, Boyd Cagle. And we did very well. I went in as a plain clothes for a while. We rode as they demonstrated. And after, a couple of months, maybe longer, I don't recall. But eventually they put me in uniform. And there was some, I think, a little animosity there about me riding. And the rest of them walking, and I can see that.
So uniforms got to ride in the car?
Yes, if it wasn't on the beat, walking.
Now,
They put me-
now, introduce yourself, Mr. Brewer.
I'm Bobby Brewer.
And how'd you figure into the police department?
Well, I came out of the Navy, and J.C. Dawkins was on the police department back then, and I was going back and forth up to Guilford College at night and so forth, and run around fags, Damaco down on South Bedwood. And Dawkins told me one day, he said, they need a policeman up here. I said, why don't you go up there and apply? So I did, and they hired me right off the bat.
When was that?
Let's see, that was in 58, or 59. I just got out of the Navy. And anyway, whenever I went on then, and got on the police department, and when Bryant came on there, well, me and him, we were, well, I stayed on the hill, the biggest part of town. Everybody over knew me on the hill. On Saturday mornings, I'd go through the hill over there, and I knew if they were a couple of sisters over there, and I can't think of their names right now. But anyway, they'd always they'd call me Mr. Bob. And that morning, down there at the grocery store, Tom's Grocery, and lagged me down, I stopped. And Mr. Bob said, I need 50 cents. I said, I gotta have a drink. I said, all right, so I handed her 50 cents. She went right down to Tom's store, went over there on that street behind Bad Eye. I believe that was the name. They called him Bad Eye over there. And she went over there, and they got into it, and he killed her.
That was, you know what you're talking about? You're talking about Thomas Gladden.
Yeah.
Thomas Gladden killed my cousin, Lily Mae
Yep,
Snook.
Lily Mae. Yeah.
Lily Mae Snook.
Yeah, that's right. I'd give her that 50 cents to go over and get that.
Thomas had one eye closed.
Yeah,
He was
yeah.
Gladden.
Yeah, yeah.
When was that? When was that?
That had to be in the 50s, late 50s,
It'd be probably around the early 60s on that.
60s.
Yeah.
Okay, because he talking about going down beside Tom's store through that path.
Yeah, yeah.
Through that
Nice.
path over there. Talmadge killed my cousin Lily Mae at Geraldine Gladden's house.
Geraldine, yeah, Geraldine.
Geraldine
Geraldine
lost
get
the right.
Yes, very nice.
Huh?
Didn't Geraldine get killed too, Geraldine?
I think she died.
I can't remember.
She was too mean to get killed.
Huh?
She was too mean to get killed. The devil come and got her.
Yeah, they was, I knew them all over there, and, but a lot of times, and those kids, those years passed after I left from over there and everything, and I'd be going in the grocery store up here. A lot of them would holler, hey, Mr. Bob. Well, who are you? Well, I'm so-and-so. Said, I remember, said, don't you remember me getting out over, you getting out over there when you was in the police car and played ball with us? Down there behind the school, it was fenced in and everything. And those kids, I'd always stop over there. And I stopped over there one Saturday morning, and they was out there playing, and they wanted me to come out there and play with them. So I got out there, and it was my time to come up to bat. Of course, I had that badge over here. And whenever I swung around, and that badge would come loose, and that thing stuck, or I was a pin about that long, and it stuck me right straight in there. I'll never forget that. When I got it, pulled that thing out, pinned it back on, and went on and played with those kids. But them youngins over there, they never forgotten. At Christmas time, all the JPs here in town,
Justices of the Peace.
yeah, they were give us fruit baskets up our police headquarters. And they was about, I don't know, 4 or 5 back then, I don't remember, but always give us those big fruit baskets. I'd take mine on the hill every Christmas, and I'd hand every one of those things out. I'd remember baskets. Excuse me.
Yeah, so you said he was your trainer?
No, Cagle was my trainer, but we got close afterwards, and I rode with him.
I looked after him. He wanted to go with me on Friday and Saturday nights. Of course, yeah, get in here, right? Over on the hill we'd go, always, them little brothers, I believe, wasn't it? Little brothers always fight.
Archie Little and his brothers lived on Greenway Street.
Yeah, Archie and Roy.
Over there at the Greenhouse Grill. There's always a fight over there, so me and Brian knows I'd pick him up whenever he'd get off the shift on the second shift. I'd take him over there. Well, at that 60 Chevrolet, I'll never forget, it was a 4-door. And Brian, I know, he'd grab him by the nape and neck and the breeches and sling him in the back seat and he'd run out the other door. Finally, I went over and shut the door. Brian grabbed up 1 or 2 more and slammed them in there and they hit the door and they didn't come out that time. But we had some time. Brian was my buddy though. I looked after him.
Now, what kind of car did they give you to drive back?
That was a 60 Chevrolet. We got up to a 60 Chevrolet then. They called them Batmobile.
Did it have a bubble light on top? Or
Oh yeah.
did it have a radio?
Red light. Yeah, had a radio. Speaker, steel speaker.
Every time you go around the corner, quickly it shut off.
Yeah, they always had the man from Lexington, Sumner, the radio man. He'd always work in the trunk working on the radio. We hit a bump and they'd go out.
Now, did y'all work close with the sheriff's department back then, or was there a rivalry, or?
No, not that. I mean, we worked all right together. Yeah, if we needed any help on the hill or anything, or anywhere else, you know, or if they needed help, we'd be there for them, you know.
When was there a black man on the sheriff's department? Do y'all know?
I can't remember right now. Gosh, it was.
Years later than you. Why?
It might have been after I left. I don't know.
That was, I think Sheridan might have been, didn't Sheridan go to the sheriff's department when he left the police department?
He did, yes.
Sure, and
Yeah,
Austin.
I thought he started out with the police
yeah,
department.
he did. And then somewhere along the line, he went to the sheriff's department.
Yeah.
Yes, that's not the only call, Robert.
Well, Sam Moulton was a policeman.
Oh, yes, Sam, he was a police officer, he wasn't a sheriff.
Yes. He was, I thought it was a policeman.
Yeah, police officer, we're talking about sheriff.
Okay,
But
sure.
who was Sam Moses?
Sam was the guy that came after me as an officer. of
The
police.
number 2 guy? Is he the second one?
Yeah, I never did know much about him, but I kind of got away from him, moved away. I went in the post office. My heart was always on the road. Died on the old trucks.
Now, last night, Katie, you said was your...
I was gonna say, those people you're talking about a while ago that lived across Miss Lucia Crawford.
Yeah,
Her husband was my father, one of my father's friends. His name was Hal Crawford.
there you go.
They lived in that small house. Miss Carrie Edwards was the first one to live in that big white house right down the corner where that big tree, where Mr. Swaney would always be preaching on that corner. You remember Mr. Swaney? The Swaneys that lived here, they were some
I
kids.
remember the Swainies.
Mr. Swaney would always be under that big oak tree right down the corner across Miss Lucia preaching.
Yes.
He would be there preaching under that big tree. But Mr. Hal and Lucille lived on the other side of them. Mr. Hal was one of my father's
Yeah,
friends.
I was calling.
But, last night, Katie was talking about the sit-ins and all that sort of stuff, and that's about the time you got hired, I think.
Hang on, I'll tell you where I was at then. We happened to be, I was on vacation at Myrtle Beach, and friends of ours from here came down there and said, hey, said, they looking for you in Asheboro. And I said, what do you mean they looking for me in Asheboro? Said, they got a set-in up there in Asheboro, and they want calling all policemen in. I said, you don't go back and tell them where I'm at. So whenever I come back, they were still having the set-ins.
But it started around Hop's restaurant.
Hops, yeah.
And I understand from talking to a lot of other people that he wasn't a very nice man.
No.
And, but
Hop. He never gave me any problems. Matter of fact, one person gave me a problem with Red's
Chicken Hut?
Red's Chicken Hut, because Ambrose and I was down there. I'll never forget that. And he asked him told Ambrose, I'd rather he not bring him in here anymore. Ambrose told me, I said, well, I don't want to come back in here anymore now, I know I can't go on. So, I never did bother Red and Morgan Hops. They've always treated me nice. Everybody treated me nice because I was a police officer, I guess, except for, but even during demonstrations.
Well, people knew not to go to Hop's restaurant, the black people knew not to go there, right?
Yeah, they were hot.
I mean, you were talking about the restaurants over on the hill, and that was your community, but did people try to eat at the white restaurants, or what did you know not to do?
I knew not to go in the front door when I go to where I like to go up North Church Street, that little place, I don't know what to call it,
Dixie D.
Dixie Deer. They had the best old cheeseburgers. And I knew the cooks, you know, whoever would cook.
And where was that, North Church Street?
I was right up on North Fatal Street.
Yeah,
Oh,
Right beside what used to be the Cadillac place there.
yeah.
Yeah. That was a hangout on Saturday nights there in Tommy's Drive-In.
but then if you go any farther, you got Snow White, and you knew not to go there, didn't you?
Yeah, unless you're going up on Price Mountain.
What was the name of there was a restaurant. Right across from the courthouse where the bank sits now. You remember that restaurant? We
Yeah.
had to go in
Robert's
the back.
Barbecue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had, you couldn't go in the front, it was right across from the courthouse.
Walter Roberts.
We had to go in the back.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, there had seats and
Now, Joan, you're married to him. But I
Yes.
know you because you were lawyer secretary forever, right?
yes.
So who did you start working for, and when did you start working on Lawyers Row?
1959, I think, or 58 actually. After I graduated.
We got married in '59.
And
You started,
I started working for Hal Hammer Walker and Larry Hammond, or L.T. Hammond's Senior from Randolph. And it was quite an experience. I loved every minute of it.
Yeah,
They
we
were
just
great.
had our 60th wedding anniversary.
And Rob, Walter, I believe that's right, it was Walter had that.
Walter Roberts ran
Yeah.
restaurants
I
before he
was
got into
thinking
real
so.
estate.
Yeah.
And in the back, they had place back there and chairs and all, didn't they? That you could sit and
They
eat.
had a stool, they had a counter,
Yeah,
and they had, it wasn't very many. It was, had most from the counter to the wall, probably about 4 feet wide.
yeah.
If more than 4 or 5 people come up, then if you were in there, you had to stand until you got, most of the time you get food to go because it wasn't about 4 or 5 stools there. And
Well, not far away was the Old Hickory, which probably was closed by the time you remember, but I know
Yeah.
Mr. Headen, and you
Well,
remember
they
Old
said,
Hickory. And Sherrod Austin, talking about him, he told me he worked as a busboy in the Old Hickory for years and had to go get their eggs and how many dozen eggs they used every day.
Yeah.
And he washed the dishes there.
was Old Hickory beside of the Bank
That's
of
where my
Randolph?
office was. It's right where my office was. It's beside
Yes,
the Bank
that's
of
what I was
Randolph.
thinking.
It's, where Don
Yes.
Simmons Magnolia is now,
Yes.
but Old Hickory was right on the
Uh-huh.
other side where my law office
Yes.
was. And that was a white tablecloth silverware restaurant,
Uh-huh.
right? Old Hickory.
Oh, yes.
You're talking about places to eat and so forth. When I was, like I said, I spent the very biggest part of my time over on Hill. I just loved it over there. And I have a lot of friends over there. If they ever had any problems, I'd be there, and we never had no problem. I never had no problem with nobody. They maybe 1 or 2 Snugs boys or something like that back in the
One or
day.
two.
Mr.
But
Brewer,
I ate a many a meal over there on Sunday too. Robert Goldston's wife, I'll forget what her name was. Christine. The last time I saw her, she was working, I think, in the cafeteria down here at high school or something. But anyway, on Sundays, I ate something or another over there on that hill. My lunch. They'd holler in, "Come on, Bob," and flag me down. Everybody on the hill knew, yeah.
can I ask before you
Sure.
go forward, how old are you now, sir?
Me? I'll be 85 next month.
Bless.
Mr. Headen, you said you're 84, right?
Be 84 October 8th.
You said you were 74?
74.
Well, I think there's one thing you need to know about Brian. He can play a piano.
Oh, Lord, yeah.
Hey,
He had a hole about that big around in his carpet over there.
you know about
That
that?
heel.
Got the peel going up now.
Where'd you learn how to play the piano?
I don't know. Just picked it up. Stella Brown, Otis Brown, old beat up piano down there. That's where I used to go bang on that piano all the time. Get off that piano, boy, making all that noise.
He was good.
I'll tell you somebody else who had well, you remember James Boss?
Yeah, James and I.
They had a big piano in there. He used to, you could hear that music all over. They'd be playing that music all up and down, and you could hear it, especially in the summertime.
Were there a lot of good musicians around Asheboro, Randolph County?
Well, not a whole lot. I have to learn my guitar. Dr. Dawes Massenberg and Grover Luck from High Point, North Carolina, there's two guitarists, and I would follow them around as a youngster and play the spoon for percussions and sing. We were singing country music at that time because that's the roots of the blues. And I forget Hank Williams, Don't Let the Stars Get in Your Eyes.
Yeah.
That was one of the things that I would sing as we played in the barns and the corn pick and the corn sellings and chitlin struts and things like that. Now, I'm talking back in the 40s. I left home really around 12 or 13 years old and out working and staying in the woods and roaming houses. I had a pretty tough young life before I went into the service. I was really,
Now, I've been told, and y'all may not know Randleman, but talking about the blues, I've always heard that there was serious blues musicians up around St. Peter.
I can't recall, but I'm sure there were.
I had a friend that lived up there, and he passed away about 3 or 4 years ago. One of my close friends up there. But yeah, they did have him up there. Yeah.
What was his name?
My mom comes and goes, and he was a little fellow. What was his name, John?
And that's me.
Yeah, dang it.
But that was a pretty large black community too, St. Peter's, right?
It
Right
was.
there at the church, he lived right out there on the left.
I mean, it's almost all gone up there now, but, you know,
Yeah,
people, not
pretty
many
solid.
people up there remember much about it.
Pretty solid community. I know I used to go up there and play my guitar at a house, a house over there behind the church,
Yeah.
St. Peter's, Stella's.
Spencer, what was his name? Spencer, what was his name?
Well, Monroe.
Monroe, he was a barber.
Mhm.
He sponsored our baseball team for a long time. Yeah, St. Peter community.
Now, jumping around, you talked about Red's Chicken Hut. I always heard that he was the head of the Klan.
It was head of something.
Where was that?
Down
South
Oh, yeah, across from General
Town.
Lee.
People.
I believe that's
Yeah.
Still there, it's a Mexican place
I
now.
believe that boy's name up there was Norman Balfour.
Norman Bell.
It was.
Oh, at
That's
St.
it.
Peter's?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Norman Balfour.
Yeah.
Yes.
You turn right there, like, you know, whenever you turn back there where that church is, you had a road that went in this way, but he lived right out here on the left. Norman did.
And he played guitar.
Did he play a guitar? I don't remember. Me and him were real close friends, yeah. Yeah, he wanted to see me. I went up there and he was on his deathbed, then cancer died.
He was a good man.
Me and him was just like brothers. I mean, from the day I worked at Klausman back in those days, and me and him, we worked together, and we just become brothers. I mean, that's how close we were. I mean, and he's always, he'd help me, and I'd help him. You know, we just worked together just like brothers. I mean, we were real close. And I had a lot of friends up there in Randolph.
Well, now, what was the white people's attitude about the Klan back then?
Well,
Did you know them? You knew who was in the Klan. They didn't make much of a secret about it.
no, I tell you, I didn't mess around with none of them. I don't, you know, like I said, I come back in on that set-in from down young though, and then they put me out there on the street working in, but I don't, that bunch of Klan people, I don't remember much about that.
Were you on hand when we arrested this Klan up there in front of Sunset Theater? It's a guy, Douglas, I don't know if we need to call any names here or not.
You can. They're probably all gone by now anyway. It's
You
history.
can bleep it out.
Where was that from?
They were sitting in front of Sunset Theater.
Oh, yeah.
And this guy come up and kicked Kelly Larry. And his name turned out to be Charles Douglas Deese. And of course, he's standing next to me, and I'm the one who had to grab him and arrest him. And he was armed, and disarmed him there, and he was trying to dispose of it. He trying to hand it to his partner. And I said, "Get that gun, Cagle." So by that time, Cagle and Mason were on hand, and we arrested him, and arrested his partner too. Put him in a separate car and took him to jail right away, because my life was threatened then. I don't know how we got back to it, but we were talking about demonstrations, and I wanted to bring that out. We did have some problems, but we didn't have no major problems in the demonstration, because it was basically peaceful, and people would sit down, and we'd get them up, take them to jail, and get them out on bond. But the point was made, it was time to make a change. And that's what it was all about. And where the violence come in was, like you said, the outsiders come from outside
Yeah.
and perpetrate these doggone outlandish things and go and run on back where they come from. And then the Asheboro has a reputation because of what? Because of an outsider. Because we can handle our affairs pretty good, I thought. So, in which we did. And that's the only demonstration incident that I recall. Do you recall any, Robert?
Well, I remember, but I was in the military at that time because I was gonna take part in it. I come home, I was stationed at Fort Bragg, and I come home, and I remember two of the meeting places. I would go to two of the meeting places where they would meet. One was St. John's Baptist Church on Martin Luther King. The other one was on Woodlawn, at the church on Woodlawn. You remember the church down there on Woodlawn, right below Rankin store?
Yeah, Everett.
Yeah, Joshua Everett.
Mr.
Well,
Everett.
yeah, Isaac Everett, well, yeah. Well, that was a place where everybody met, but see, and I was gonna take place, but I was in the military, so they told me it'd be best if you didn't. It could affect your military career, you know, so I didn't take place, but I was in there with them, you know, as I remember they would send out a certain number of demonstrators would come up to Hops, and they had a phone system, and once those demonstrators were arrested, they'd immediately send some more, and that's the way they kept sending them in shifts.
And Melvin Marley said it was somebody from High Point or Winston-Salem who organized all this.
What was that guy named?
No,
Robert Blow. I'm not sure his name, but I remember he's a big fella.
Yeah, that's, I was trying to think of his name.
It wasn't in the Baptist church when somebody rode by and shot through there, or whether he was up, making a speech in there at one of the meetings, and somebody shot through there, went up that street. If I can remember, I may be wrong.
Well, in High Point.
No, here in Asheboro. They came here and organized the demonstrators. They came here because I remember one place was St. John's and the other place was Isaac Everett's Church on Woodlawn.
And Miss Vastine Franks told me that. She said that she was at that meeting on Woodlawn.
So I know this because every time they had somebody at Hops Barbecue, if I'm not mistaken, it might have been her, that was calling back every time they would arrest a certain number of demonstrators. He would call back to the church, and they would immediately send some more to take that place. And that's what they kept doing every time they arrested a certain number. They sent, oh, they had a church full of people. I mean, you know, and they'd send a certain number every time he called back and said they just took these to jail. They would call back and they'd send some more to take their place.
Now, there was, started at Hops, but they did it at Sunset Theater too. Because I know one time back behind courtroom A, Maynard Wilkins was talking to me about it, and he was on the police force then. And he was talking about A.J. Stinson I went to high school with. What's his mother's name? Imogene. Said that she was there at the sit-in at Sunset Theater, and she was a large woman. Yes. And said she flopped down on the floor, and Maynard had to drag her out of the Sunset Theater.
I don't see how he broke it. I remember Maynard wasn't that big of a man.
No, he was tall, thin.
Whenever I came back from down there to coach that damn day, don't night, I'll have to come in on the police department. They were setting in down there at the Carolina Theater on South Devil Street.
Yeah, that was other theater.
That's where it was at. And they were setting in down there and had arms locked and everything. And like I said, there's some of them that, and it's rained some, there's some of them they were dragging around down there too, picking them up.
Oh, I didn't know they did it.
Yeah, they sure did. That was the first place I went to whenever I come back in and checked in headquarters.
Well, at the same time that they were demonstrating at Hops, they were demonstrating a little castle right beside it.
Yeah.
The little castle was right beside Hops, and they were demonstrating in both places.
Yeah.
Of course, that was next to the theater.
Yeah, it was in between Hops and the theater.
And then a lot of people had to sit in the balcony of the Sunset, right?
Yeah.
And there was some kind of stair that went outside, and you climbed up the outside to it.
Go in over there behind Robert's Barbecue. Go up the little short alley, and there's steps there, about 20-some steps, going up to the loft of the Sunset Theater. Yes, it was, I got to see the movie, had to go upstairs.
Now, when people were arrested, you helped arrest people, did you? Did you help arrest people when they were doing the sit-in?
Yes, I was right in the middle of it. Yeah, I arrested him, I said, look, you know I can't pick you up. Okay.
And then you took them to the county jail, right? And they stayed. Did the city have a lockup of any kind?
Yeah, see, they had a jail in the old courthouse.
Right back.
No, the city. Is it in City Hall? Was there a lockup in City Hall?
I don't
But the old jail was right behind the old courthouse. I've been in it many times.
know.
No, they wasn't nothing there at City Hall.
So you take them over to the county jail,
Yeah.
and they process and get bonded out.
That's the only jail they had in the courthouse.
Nobody stayed
Behind the
there long.
courthouse.
Process, matter of processing, and then down around, and I don't think they even locked them up, except one or two that had outstanding warrants or something. They just put them back in the detention area till some arrangements were made for their release. And of course, there were people standing by to have them released, and Mabel, Lewis, a couple more law and Strickland, and people that would sign the bond, and get about 25.
Chester Crowley.
Just a crowd.
Yeah, Chester.
Remember that name?
Yeah.
Just a crowd.
Oh, Chester.
Yeah.
Chester, he wasn't, you know,
Well, he would sign some of the bonds.
Yeah.
So all this took about a month or so, that it was happening day after day, or how long did it last?
I don't think it lasted long, yeah, a couple of months. Yeah, it wasn't really long. but with point being made, and then, process of taking care of the requesters, and of course, setting up the time frame for things to happen. And it worked smoothed out in a couple of months. Everything seemed to be, as best I can remember, got back to normalcy. And we still went to the back door, but not as many people went to the back door. And until after a while, moved out, started going in the front door, just a peaceful transition, as best I can remember. Except for a few exceptions, and Reyes, of course, was one of them.
And ultimately, did that hurt the black businesses though? Because all the ones you're talking about, ended up closing within 10, 15 years.
Well, I don't think it really hurt the black businesses because they were an integral part of the community. And people still, in that time, everybody didn't have the transportation and stuff to come to town, as we called it. So they did still shop in the community because every other street had some kind of store or business on it, where even just like where you can go in the Dollar Tree now and buy candy, you could go in there and buy viands, sardines and stuff like that, You couldn't buy any kind of meats or anything like that, but just about any kind of canned good, you could go in the community store and get it. That's the way, because a lot of the people, even a lot of those in demonstration, you still didn't have cars. A lot of people still walked. They still walked. And so, it wasn't then if somebody wanted to come uptown, they just strike out and start walking. That's the way they did.
Now, Mr. Headen, you told me that after all this, you and Miss Franks go down towards Georgia, Mississippi, and places like that to some of these demonstrations.
Oh yes, Chief let me off, and my wife and I and some of the NAACP members, one or two of them Bastine, and someone else went with us when we went to Augusta, Macon, Georgia. That's where we went to the demonstration. She don't remember, and I was talking to her about it, she couldn't remember, but that's the trip that I was telling you about, where we were pushing for gas and running in the rain in the middle of the night trying to make it down there.
Now, what was going to happen in Macon?
The march, it's just like the march, Selma and Montgomery. We marched, it's been so long, I remember we marched from one point A to point B, downtown Macon, Georgia. And of course we had dinner. And did we spend the night? You don't remember that we spent the night, didn't come on back.
And when it was on the way back, you were about to run out of gas.
I was on the way down there.
Oh.
I made sure I didn't have no problem coming back. I didn't go that way. She and I were off on a trip once before, going to the mountains maybe, and we run into a Klan rally. Highway 64 and 70 over near Statesville someplace. Yeah, we had a detour. I don't know why. I can't remember exact details, but I know we didn't go that way. It was advertised, Klan rally. So we took a detour and went on. We made our trip. But the Klan was always like a threatening thing, because what they would do to you. Lynching,
But there's not been any lynchings in Randolph County, but there's been cross burnings, because I know up at the fairgrounds on North Fayetteville Street, there was some kind of cross burning.
Well, I recall.
Were you on the force then, or do you remember?
I don't know. I remember the cross burning. I can't remember what year it was. But
That
I
was-
do recall the cross burning.
What's his name? The lawyer owned the fairground.
You're welcome.
Will York. Yeah. But I know there was several cross burning because Jeff Swartz told me that there was a cross burning, the Klan burned a cross in their yard when they first moved to town, and they lived there beside their factory in that little house that's on Asheboro Golf Course. You know, and they moved here from New York to run that factory.
Smart style.
Smart stuff. Yeah, he said that they burned a cross right there in their front yard, right at the golf course.
They sold some good clothes though.
Yeah,
Anytime
yeah.
that, his daddy had a store uptown, right there where old BC Ward used to be, right up above. I still have a sweater and a pair of slacks I bought when they had the first, what was it? What is that they have every year? The big thing you have every year.
Fall Festival?
Fall Festival. His dad had a shop. I still have a sweater and a pair of slacks that I can still wear. I bought that when they had the first Fall Festival.
They made cowboy clothes too.
I
Oh,
ain't
yes,
got no
yes.
cowboy clothes. I
Yeah.
got some
Yeah,
navy
yes,
dress
they
slacks
did.
and a beautiful black and white sweater I bought from his father. And I still wear them today. That was at the first Fall Festival.
I got one of them old cap busters in a little holster and everything from down there. I had that thing for years and years.
Well, it's been an hour, and I don't want to keep you unless y'all want to keep talking.
Well, she's got a doctor's appointment.
Yeah, but,
One thing, I don't know, this may not be of any importance, but I do want to mention, when I was growing up, I had two other sisters. They were older than me. Well, Mom and Dad worked at McCrary Hosiery, and so they had to have somebody to look after little old me. And so I called them, instead of a maid, they were always a cook to me. And we had this sweet black lady that looked after me, and just, I loved her dearly. And I believe her name was Beulah. And she looked after me for years, and we'd go out to the store at the corner, pure food store down the corner, Hoover and, what was that? Park Street, yeah. And get us some ice cream. And that was buttercup ice cream. Well, we'd come back and sit on the front porch. And, you know, the wooden spoons you had. Well, we had two wooden spoons in 1 cup of cream. Well, or no, it was just one spoon. She'd take a bite and I'd take a bite. And we just enjoyed our ice cream tremendously. And our neighbors across the street would get so tickled at us that, oh, they'd gone to get ice cream again. But she was a lovely lady, and I even went to her funeral over on the hill, and with my mother. And it was just really interesting, and the music and everything was just beautiful. And
well, I have a similar story, and I'll share that just for balance on this side of the table. When I was growing up, Margaret Spencer was our cook, and she was a good cook. But I was the oldest, and my brother was a year younger, and then my sister was born in 1964, about the same time Suzette, Margaret's daughter, was born. And Margaret was our cook, and my parents were both teachers, public school teachers. And Margaret was our cook and kept us until I went to school, and that would have been in the late 50s, early maybe 62 till 62 or something like that. But so I grew up with Johnny and Jimmy, and we'd run around together and stuff like that. And I remember when she left, and I've talked to her about it since then, but she left because she got offered a job at Acme McCrary, and she said that no black women had ever been able to work in public work till then. And that was about 62 or 63, and Acme started hiring black women. And until then, they had all, I guess, one of the only jobs they could get was working in people's houses because, you know, all the lawyers had one, and my parents weren't even lawyers, but I know
Right.
all the other lawyers had.
We had 3. I guess I wore them out, I don't know. But every one of them were just wonderful.
But
But they were cooks, they weren't
Well,
maids.
and it's interesting that people on a public school teacher's salary could afford one back in the 50s, which to me now
Yes.
means that they weren't making much of anything.
They weren't,
They're right.
they weren't paying.
I remember, I mean, since everyone's adding their
Yes.
story, I'll just add a little. I remember talking to my mother one time about my grandmother, and that's what she did. She would clean houses. Her name was Mary Laughlin. And my mother told me she made $3 a week. That's how much she was being paid.
Oh,
And I was born in 55, and in about 1960, I went to Central for 1 year, first grade. I had Miss Sauer. She was my first grade teacher. And after that year, we moved to New Jersey. So we stayed in New Jersey until I was about 12, I think, 12, 13. And the year we moved back here, Federal Street School was for 7th grade only. That was the only year that they did that.
We were together. We were in the
Yeah.
same grade.
Yeah, that was the only year they used it for that. So my memories are sporadic here and there because then, you know, I stayed and went to South Asheboro Middle School and to Asheboro High up to the 11th grade, and then I left again and went back to New Jersey. So I've been, but my family most of the time was here.
My mother was a cook for Printer Don Durham's family. She was a cook for all his children. And for years, my mother she worked 28 years at Kaiser's Laundry. She worked there for 28 years, and she was a cook for Mr. Reeves and his wife, Reeves Pharmacists. And she was a cook for years for his wife, when she was no longer a cook, but Miss Reeves would still just come over to the house and pick up, and they just ride. They just ride. My mother passed away at 91. So Miss Reeves and her daughter was at the funeral, you know. But she raised a lot of kids. I know. I used to talk to Don, Mr. Durham, but now last I talked to his son, he would tell me how whenever he get in trouble, he run to find my mama. He jump in her lap, cause you know, if he find her jumping in her lap, he wouldn't get no peace.
I'm going to tell him this, that you probably didn't know about your dad. Your dad and I went to D.C. to arrest a man, jumped bail.
Yeah.
And Jack Hines.
Miss Lula's husband, yeah, I remember that.
And we went up there and got the police, went to the police scene, got us some police officers. And we went over and got that man out of bed about 3 o'clock in the morning, made him drive back. Let's go. Then you drive. You got us out there. But he was nice, he rode till he gave out, man. I drove. But I didn't know whether you remember
Yeah,
that.
I remember that, because I cried, I wanted to go with him.
Well, I appreciate all of y'all coming today. We could do this for another couple of hours, but from now on, I think it's up to Mary and her group to do this same sort of thing, now that you see what I was talking about when I said get people together like this. Because this is the kind of stuff that doesn't get written down, and people ought to know. And especially young people from the black community got no clue about most of the stuff y'all are talking about. And, well, for that matter, most people in the white community have no clue about it anymore. And people pretend that it never happened. I've had people say, oh, we didn't have the Klan in Asheboro, and we didn't have racism in Asheboro and stuff.
When did they leave?
Well, they had their head in the sand, I think. But I hope we'll be able to get all of y'all back together sometime and add some people and whatever, because like, you know, I've told people I wish I'd done this with Otway Burton and bunch of other lawyers.
Oh, yes.
Because they could tell stories, and I've
Oh, boy.
heard some stories, and
Oh.
none of them ever got recorded, which is a shame.
I know.
But I appreciate all of y'all coming today, and we want you to come back sometime. And when we get this on the internet, we'll let you know, and you can show people what it's like.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you all.
so thank you.